Okay. Hello. We've got some people back anyway. Though Kevin might not have audio. We'll see how he goes. He might be dropping out and back in again. So we'll get we'll get started on the last little bit of this course today. So I got two short sections left. One is just a bit more around safe, which you've seen a bit of already today, and the last section's on where to go next, or what happens next after this course in terms of, I guess, your ARCHER2 journey, for want of a better way of putting it. So let's just want to briefly talk about safe, particularly, you've seen some things in safe already around passwords and requesting access to licensed packages, in particular, looking at quotas. Was what we've done so far. Safe does do other things as well, so I'll have a quick review of them because it is actually integral to how ARCHER2 works and how we manage the system. So it's a web-based tool, as you've seen, works in the web browser. It was developed by us at EPCC to allow us to help users, help ourselves better manage services and help users have quicker access to support and common tasks that they want to do. So does things like allows you to manage your ARCHER2 account, which you've seen a bit, requesting access to software, setting up accounts, so requesting accounts on the service and getting passwords, setting SSH keys and things like that. You've seen how to look at how much quota you have, and also it shows you a few other things. So I'm going to have a look at but as well as that, it allows you to record research outputs linked to your use of ARCHER2. I'll show you what that means in a moment. And look at your historical use of the ARCHER2 service, so looking at reports of jobs you've run, your usage of the system in particular, for different projects and things like that. I'll show you what that means in a moment. And so for some people who have special privileges, who are a project leader or a project manager, it also allows them to manage the project resources and assign them to different users in their projects, assign amounts of quota, amounts of compute time, things like that, and actually also mail out to all the users that are in the project and those sorts of things. The first thing to realize is that you have two actual accounts, really, a minimum of two accounts associated with your use of ARCHER2. There is what everybody always thinks of as their login account, which is the actual account you use to log into ARCHER2. So my one here is called, it has the username artsta045, it has a password and SSH key associated with it, all that sorts of stuff. I like to use it to log in to ARCHER2. But you also have a safe account. And so as you saw when I was looking at my safe interface here, if I go back to the front page, I had lots of different login accounts associated actually with different systems, all associated with my single safe account. So I have one safe account which is associated with my the primary key for that is my email address, and that can contain multiple machine login accounts. Some of them for ARCHER2, some are for tier 2 facilities, and some for in my case, because I work for EPCC, so some other EPCC systems that we use. So your safe account is the sort of overarching thing that allows you to manage all your other machine accounts. And there's a few different things that you could do with your associated with safe accounts, which are useful to note. The first one is if I log out here. It has some sort of details and my email address and all those sort of things here. But rather than logging in directly, I can log in my institutional credentials here. There's this button. And what this does, it takes me to a page where I can select my university. In my case, you can type different universities in here. So if you're with Warwick University, you could find the University of Warwick here. And if you click that, it would take you to the University of Warwick sign-in page, single sign-in page. You enter your credentials there. And you can log into the safe. In my case, it's the University of Edinburgh because EPCC is part of the University of Edinburgh. I click that. I'm already logged into my single sign-on the University of Edinburgh, so it takes me straight into the safe without having to enter the other password. The way you make that happen is in the Your Details section. There's a Register Identities, and if you click register institutional ID, it'll take you to that page where you can select lots of different institutions from the search box. You click the one you want, you log in for a single sign-on. That makes the association with your Safe account, and then from that point on, you can use that login using institutional ID button on the front page, and it can be a bit more convenient than having to enter a different username and password or save a different username and password. Particularly, that works well, particularly for institutions within the UK. It's a little bit more flaky with using institutions outside the UK because of the service that provides the institutional login is a UK-based thing, and only certain institutions outside the UK are associated with it or work well with it. So our experience really is that all UK-based institutions, particularly higher education institutions, support this. So worldwide is a bit more patchy. You can also change which email lists you're signed up to for your Safe account. So again, on your details here, you can update your email settings, and you can see there's different types of email here. So there's major announcements, queue state, service news, system status notifications. There's a debug one because I'm part of the service and Safe. And there's this one that's mandatory that everybody's signed up to. So the mandatory one hardly ever gets used. It's only like really major announcements, like the most recent one was the full ARCHER2 service being open for users, and the fact that the full cabinet service might be going away in about a month's time. We had to be able to tell people that and get that message out to everybody, so that we use that mandatory mailing. But the ones you can sign up for or not sign up for as you see fit. And generally, as it describes here, the major announcements is quite low volume, and the mandatory one's even lower volume, used for higher priority and important announcements, such as system upgrades, major issues, and things like that. The service news provides a weekly email with information on change of service, upcoming events, training courses, other information, other events that we think might be useful and interesting to users. I would recommend signing up for that. It gives you access to a lot more information than just the ARCHER2 and keeps you abreast of what's going on. It's that the frequency is once a week at the moment. System status notification, it provides more information on upcoming maintenance downtime, notifications when service is up and down. This is one where we hope it's low volume, but when the system is having some issues, which does occasionally happen, then it could be a bit higher volume. You can get quite a few. You can get some notifications of what's going on in terms of fixing the problems and what's available and what's not at times like that. Those times. So if you're critically, you really want to know what's going on in the system and want to know exactly when it's coming up and down, and that's useful for you, then that's a useful email address, email list to be signed up to. Okay. And there's various other things. You can change your email, you can update your personal details, and those sort of things. The other thing you can do with your Safe account is this publications section. So when you go to the publications section, you can select any of the projects that you have access to. So if I had, for example, this one, TA 045, 2020 package users, there's no publications, right? Because this is not a project that's done research and raised any publication. But I could add, as a user, any publication arising from my research work as part of a project to this area. So, and the actual way you add it is just by entering a DOI. So as soon as your publication has a DOI, you can put it in here. The Safe automatically records it, links it to the project. That's useful for the project PI because it provides them with a consolidated list that they can then use to upload to services like ResearchFish, which they have to do once a year to say what publications came out of a particular piece of research. So it helps them with that. It also means that on the ARCHER2 website, which I'll zoom in a bit because it's a bit small here, in the research section, there's a publications section here too. With a list of various publications that have used ARCHER2 and other national services, and that's drawn directly from Safe. So any publications that go into Safe automatically make it onto this page, and then this information gets sent also to the research councils for information on what they're doing, on what's going on ARCHER2 and what sorts of publications are coming out of it as well. So I would encourage you to do the publication thing, and you can always get a list of your publications out as well. So it's maybe sometimes useful for as a way to keep track of your publications if you don't already use something like Mendeley or whatever, or some other system like that. As well as your safe accounts, you have ARCHER2 login accounts. We've seen that already. So you do things like you can view the resources available. Let me go to safe and show you. So where's my login accounts? There we go. Look at the one for this project. So we can see that it says there's no batch uses yet. That's because the job uploads from ARCHER2 to the safe only happen periodically. They don't go instantaneously every time everybody runs a job, because the load on the database will be massive, right? I mean, these job IDs are sequential. So this is 856,000 jobs run on ARCHER2 so far, and it hasn't been in service very long. So what we do is we consolidate twice a day or something and upload the logs at that point. So this will get updated sometime in the next 12 hours or something, to show that I've actually run jobs in this project. And that's the same way. So it shows you how many CUs you have left. So this is 20 node hours on the system. Doesn't really matter at the moment because it's uncharged, so that's not going to go down. And as we said, we looked at what the quotas and usage meant before. And you can manage your SSH keys. You can delete these credentials. You can add extra SSH keys. So say you're logging in from different places and you have a different SSH key on each place you're logging in from, you can easily add multiple ones of those only. If you've forgotten your login password, you can also do that here. You can request a password reset. That will happen push the system. It'll happen straight away, and then you can come and view the login account password like you did when you first logged in. And when you log in, obviously it'll ask you to reset it and choose a new password again, and all that sort of stuff as well. So you can look at the login password like that as well. So you can update it if you've forgotten your password quite easily in a self-service way. One thing to note is Safe's not kept up to date with your actual password. Okay, so if I go and view the login account password for this one, it's still the initial one that was set the first time around. You saw me change that right at the start of the course, so you know that's changed. You know that's changed already. So this isn't kept up to date. That's actually a security feature, right? Because if it kept up to date as safe, then if somebody broke into safe, they would have access to all the passwords on ARCHER2. So we don't want that to happen. We don't keep those passwords up to date. So if you've forgotten your password, you just have to request a password reset, get the one-shot one from the system, and go back and use it on the system in the same way as you did when you logged in. And we've covered all those ones before. I've just talked about recording research output, so we've covered that. Safe also provides a way to report on your use of the service. There was a question earlier about how long records are kept for, and we don't certainly don't guarantee to keep the records in the Slurm database on the system for a long period of time, but we do keep records in the safe forever. Actually, we still have job records in the safe from the old Hector user service, which was the one before Archer, and probably even some from HPCX, which was the national service before Hector. So that's like, again, for 20 years ago now. So they do get kept for a long time, even if the user details become anonymized as people leave. We don't keep personal details. We just say, we don't anonymize it and say, this was associated with this user random string. And that means that Safe can report on your usage. So you can see here there's some user reports down here. I won't get anything at the moment because the job logs haven't been uploaded to Safe yet for this account. But I can show you for other accounts that I've used that I've been using longer, what sorts of things you can get out. So if I go and look at my standard ARCHER2 account, this is my personal one that I use more often in the service, I can get a user usage report, which in this case, I haven't been running very many jobs very recently. The last one, you can see it was probably just one job ran back in November the 18th that I used a certain amount of time. There you go. So there you go. So it thinks I've run so this looks at November 2021. So in November, I've ran just over 668 jobs. I haven't used very many CUs. I haven't been charged very many CUs because the service is free at the moment, but the raw usage has been quite a lot. That's 7,000 node hours. it gives me a usage broken down by job size. I could change the period if I want to report over a different period. And I could output the data in different ways. I can get a PDF of it or a CSV, for example, if I want tabular data that I can go and take away and use in a different place. As well as that sort of aggregate usage, you can get a look at what jobs you've been running. So if I pick this one, I'm not going to select the project. I'm going to look at the last 25 jobs. It said I ran 600 in November. So this is what 1st of November for one block of 1 month. And preview just shows me in the browser. So this gives me the list of jobs I've been running. So there's job ID and the job name, where it ran, ARCHER2, which project it ran under, and which budget was charged to, when it was submitted, when it started, when it ended, how long it ran for. The scheduling coefficient is a measure of how long it queued for relative to its runtime. So a scheduling coefficient of 0.5 means it queued for the same amount of time it ran. So this is close to 0.5, so it queued for 3 seconds and then ran for 3 seconds. So it wasn't very long in the queue at all. How big it was in nodes, charge usage. I don't know what the job size tasks is. That one seems to be 0, so it doesn't seem to be used at the moment. But you can get out these job records for your job. If you need more detailed data, these reports can be customized by us. So if the reports don't give you what you want, then get in touch with us, and we can look at different things. Can you drill down to memory usage? So the answer there is potentially yes, but we don't have the report yet, I don't think. So I think we're gathering the data into Safe now, because as you saw, Slurm does have memory usage in it. And we just need to write, we do need to write the report. So let me just double check that report's not there yet. No, it's not. So that is a report that we do want to have. We haven't got it yet. The other thing that, of course, that Slurm's reporting back on. So you can see all the types of reports through the report section as well, if you have access to other ones as well. Particularly project managers and people like that will have access to these project reports that show what particular projects have been doing over time and things like that. And everybody has access to the monthly report, which, although it's called the monthly report, we run over any period and gives an overview of what everybody's used across the whole system, and what time has been allocated to different projects and how much time each project's been using and what the system looks like overall. So if I run, so 1st of November is not very good because Archer's only running since the 22nd of November. But if I run from the 22nd of November for this is one block of 1 month, but actually we're going one block of, where are we, about 8 days in now, aren't we? 8 days. I'm going to say this is ARCHER2. I can restrict to the resource pool, which is ARCHER2 as well, doesn't matter. And I'm running a preview on that. This gives you a much more of an overview of the whole system. So if I scroll right to the top, it gives you a list of usage by each individual project and what allocation they've got on the service over all the different projects and their groupings. It gives you, so the pie charts of that sort of stuff, that's fine. It gives you some sort of breakdown of job sizes, what the load looks like. It's always been 100% used since it started on the 22nd of November, ARCHER2. And various other charts and load plots in terms of how many node hours used and things like that, how much disk usage, what the disk usage profile looks like over that time period and how it's grown or not. As you can see, the work disk usage has grown from a very low percentage up to 4% used on that one, 4% used on that one, and 1% used on that one. And various other charts you can see like that. So you can get quite a lot of information through the Safe on the usage of the service. And yes, that was that's a useful reminder to go back and check the memory usage. And the other thing we get to them is the energy usage. So we want to be able to provide reports that give the memory and energy usage for particular jobs. Now, of course, you say you're asking to drill down to memory usage. It does depend a bit on what how the program's memory usage looks, right? Because what you get is max from Slurm. What you get is a max memory and an average memory. Okay, so if your program is very symmetrical in its memory usage across different processes and different nodes, then that's fine. right? The max is useful, and the average is the mean is useful as well. But if you've got a program that's very inhomogeneous in its memory usage, where you see a large difference between the max and the mean, then the memory usage reports from Slurm are of less use at that point. So at that point, you need to start using a profiler if you want to really understand the memory use properly, because it's a much more complex situation. Okay. So Safe, as well as providing way for you to manage your accounts and the resources associated with them, and access to software packages and things like that, and publications and all those sort of things, also provides the way to report on usage of the service. Now, of course, as I've said, it's not instantaneous, because you have to wait for the job records to be uploaded, and that happens around 2 times every day. But looking at historical use and aggregate use, it's very useful. For the more sort of instantaneous, up-to-date, using SACT on ARCHER2 itself, and using the data in the Slurm database on the system itself should give you the sort of more instantaneous reports before it gets uploaded to Safe. But it's a bit more cumbersome to use on using the SACT command. You have to use all the command line options rather than Safe, where you can point and click and choose them and just click on the reports and see them. Is there anything else to say about Safe? One thing I should do probably is put in here some information about what we should do in this course, is put in some information on how to use SACT properly. We looked earlier, so if I do SACT -u user, okay, so now you can see that this is the record of all the jobs that I ran, that I've been running over the duration of this course, that the Slurm now is about. So you remember I ran a standard one, there's a high mem test, there's various, and then I run lots and lots of standard ones, and then I ran to one serial. You'll see that each job has a number of records in Slurm associated with it. So there's this sort of top level overall job thing, and then there's these different job step one. So if, for example, in a normal job you run in the batch system, where you use srun in your job, you'll tend to have an override, a sort of top level ID, which is just the ID on its own. There's one that talks about the resources that are used by running the batch script itself, not running the actual command, not running the actual srun commands and things like that, the things that just run the batch job. There's this external, is what it is, .external. That's resources used by things that Slurm can't keep track of, so just other bits and pieces. And then these ones with the .0 or .1 or .2 on the end are the individual srun commands within your batch script and the records associated with them. If you look at the manual for SACT, you can, at the man page for SACT, you can get more information on how to use it and how to get different information out on different properties and things like that. But you can get, as I said, there was one here somewhere. Where were we? In the user guide, remember we saw there was one in the profiling section at the very bottom about how to use SACT to get out the memory usage. So let me do this command. And I'm going to pick one of the jobs that I ran here, which is this last one, just because it's handy at the bottom of the thing. Okay, so this uses SACT and gives you the mean and maximum memory usages for that job. Okay, from the accounting database. And once we've got the stuff into, once we've written the report in Safe, we'll be able to give it a bit more context and a bit more information to help interpret the data a bit better. And you can do the same for energy, right? You can get up the energy usage as well. I can't remember quite what the property is for energy. I'd have to look in the SACT. In the SACT, the man page, it lists all the different things you can output. There's quite a lot of them. Somewhere there's an energy one. I'd have to go and look it up properly. I can't see it straight away. In here. Oh, there you go. Consumed energy. So I ran that command before. I could change some of these ones at the end. One of these ones at the end, probably to consumed energy. Yeah, okay. So you get out of value for the amount of energy used by the job as well. Okay, so with a combination of SACT and SAFE, you can get a lot of data out. As I say, SAFE, we're always developing new reports, and hopefully we'll have one from every energy usage in pretty soon. Right, so that's what SAFE allows you to do. I've got just this final section, and then we've got some time for some questions or topics that people want to ask about that we haven't managed to cover, or what I need to cover in more detail. So this next steps section is just about where do you go now from the end of this course in terms of getting help, getting further support, or going on and getting access to ARCHER2, or if you want to, if you don't already have access and things like that. So the main point I hope you've seen throughout, the main points of support, as hope you've seen, are the documentation of the service desk. The service desk, we're always happy to try and answer any questions that people have and answer them as efficiently as we can. The address is support@archer2ac.uk. If you have an issue you want to, maybe something that's not so well defined, or you want something to discuss in more depth with an expert, with one of the CSE experts, either from EPCC or even from the HPE Centre of Excellence, who are the sort of application specialists who support the service from HPE. Then we can book a callback session with you, and that's pretty easy at the moment, via Zoom or via Teams, whatever, or whatever technology of your choice. If you drop around to the service desk and say you want to discuss this in person, we can easily set up a session for you to have a chat to an expert. We can find the person who knows the most about the topic you want to talk to them. So, please do take advantage of that. It's not just email. We are happy to actually meet and chat with you and have a call back with you to try and help you solve your issues, or even discuss say you've got an idea for something and you want to discuss the best way forward and the best way to approach it on ARCHER2. Then we're happy to have those sorts of chats with people. I've used the documentation quite a lot through this course because I can't remember everything because I'm getting too old and my memory's broken. So I always go and look at the documentation. But it is quite extensive. There's quite a lot of it. If you spot an omission or think there's a bit that needs more information, then you can let us know, or you can either let us know via the service desk or the documentation itself. You may have noticed. I'm not sure if you did. Let's go to the documentation here. But if you go back to the top of the documentation, you may see it's actually a public repo on GitHub. So if you think there's something that needs done or something that needs improved, if you can email the service desk, that's fine. You can also drop an issue in. If you want to add something to the documentation, you can fork the repo and create a pull request, and that get reviewed by the ARCHER2 service. We've already had quite a few users adding their expertise in about particular codes, at how to make different models and things work on the system by pulling in directly to the documentation. So we're always more than happy to have contributions from people to the documentation. That's really good, a really good way forward. But it does include what we haven't looked at as quick start guides for the users to getting up and running on the system. It's similar to this sort of course, but a sort of self-service way of doing it. The best practice guide we've used a lot, covers a lot of topics, information on the different, you've seen this, some of the information on the different research software libraries available on the service. For those people who are moving from the 4-cabinet system to the full system, also there's a specific section there as well. Let me go back to the documentation. So in here, there was a ARCHER 4-cabinet to full system migration guide, which includes information on data migration, porting applications, and the major differences between the two systems. But there's also, I think I should point out, is there's a known issues section. There are a number of issues on the system that we already know about. And this section documents them all and notes any workarounds for those problems if they exist. So there's quite a lot of documentation there for you to get stuck into. But please don't feel that you can't email the service desk. If you can't find what you want in the documentation, or you're struggling to understand what the documentation is telling you, please just drop us a line. We're more than happy to help people. So there's ARCHER2 training because you're here on this course. Well, there is always more ARCHER2 training, which you can take after this course. So there's a few different courses that follow on quite naturally from this course. There's a course called Understanding Package Performance, which is designed to improve the efficiency of your use of HPC systems. So it talks about what you could do as a user rather than a software developer to optimize your use of an HPC system, and the topics to think about in terms of optimizing your workflow and getting the most out of the CUs you've been allocated on the system. But there's that one. We do have some particular courses targeted at particular software packages, such as we had, I think in the past, using CP2K, using GROMAX. Some of our friends at the NCAS Computational Modeling Service run instructions to using the unified model, the climate model, on ARCHER2 and various other bits and pieces like that. So there's those sorts of courses around as well. More general skills, software and data carpentry. You may have heard the carpentries models. Software carpentry and data carpentry both give you some sort of basic foundational knowledge in improving your ability to manage and use software. And this is software in its broadest sense, so not sense necessarily writing a big program that has 100,000 lines of source, but also those 10-line bash scripts are used to convert one data format to another, and how to make sure that they are kept and understood and tested and robust, and support the research that you want to do properly. And data carpentry around managing data, analyzing data, and those sort of things. We run those courses very regularly. They're always really, really popular and heavily oversubscribed. So if you see those courses pull, you're better to register for them as soon as possible, because they do fill up very, very quickly. And earlier in the course, I also mentioned that there's a reproducible computational environment using containers. It's a long mouthful of a topic, but that introduces using Docker and Singularity for people who haven't used those sorts of things before. Docker is typically used on your local system, so on your laptop or workstation, so where you have root access, whereas ARCHER2 and HPC systems support the use of Singularity containers. And actually, one of the things we show you is how to convert Docker containers to Singularity containers, how to use Docker to build Singularity containers, and those sorts of things on the system. There is actually one of those courses coming up relatively soon in January. If we look at the upcoming training on the ARCHER2 website, it's not even advertised yet. Okay, I'm a little bit surprised at that. But in the middle of January, I can't remember the exact date, something like the 16th, 17th January, something like that. And there's going to be one of the containers courses, so keep an eye on that. That should be up very soon. If it's not already, I'm surprised it's not already there. You can see there's data carpentry in full already for next week sometime. So there's plenty of courses and training opportunities that come up over time. If you have a need for particular training and you know enough people at your local institution who have need for the same training, then you can drop us a line. Say you've got a group of people who all want to do software carpentry, then you can drop us a line and ask us if we'll run a software carpentry or whatever you want at your institution. If there's enough local interest, then we can usually find a way to do that and open up registrations more generally as well, beyond the institution. But we're more than happy to collaborate with people to run those things as they need them. Obviously, a lot of them are everything's online at the moment because of the COVID situation. Though hopefully that will improve as next year goes on and we'll start doing face-to-face courses more often as time goes on. Finally, getting access routes to both software development and to ARCHER2 itself. In terms of access to ARCHER2, you've got access through this course with the course accounts now for about 3 to 4 weeks after this course finishes for you to explore and to try using the system and see how it works and use carry on with the topics you've learned in this course, or looking at the documentation and trying things out. In terms of getting access to research, though, There's a number of different routes. You can go through the EPSRC or NERF Scientific Consortia if your project's in their remit. Depending on the consortia, each one's slightly different, but they'll have either calls or ways for getting resources through the consortium. And there's a pump priming approach where you fill in a short form and you can get a small amount of time for 6 months to try out ARCHER2 for your research. It's actually quite a substantial amount of resource you get via pump priming, really, because ARCHER2 is such a big system. The actual pump priming time is quite a lot. But that's restricted to EPSRC remit science only, because NERC don't support that access route. You can access ARCHER2 resources via a research grant. You can always add ARCHER2 time to any research grant you're applying for. How this works depends on which grant awarding body you're getting your money from. And if you've got any questions, you can drop the service desk a line. On the website, there is a support and access. There's a getting access page, which talks about. It's quite complicated because there's lots of different options, but it talks about all the different ways of getting access and through different research grants and things like that. And finally, there's also these access to HPC or Pioneer project calls. They don't include any researcher time, but just give you access to computer time for supporting ongoing projects. And you get access for up to a year through them. But have a look at more details in the ARCHER2 plan. Finally, there's ECSE calls. If you need help developing software or porting software to ARCHER2 or improving its scaling or any of those sort of things, you can get funding for the ECSE program for yourself, a friendly research software engineer of your choice, either at your local institution, or you can ask for people from the CSE team at EPCC to provide their expertise to do the work for you, to add functionality or improve the performance of research software on ARCHER2. Again, look at the website. There are ECSE pages that describe how often the calls are and how you can access them. There's a call just about to open in the next couple of weeks for ECSE effort to improve codes. So that's one worth looking out for. If you're interested in ECSE stuff, I would apply soon, because there's not that many calls left, I don't think, in the services at the moment. Maybe three or four at the most. So that's the end of the material here. I hope you found at least some of what I've said useful for your work and for using ARCHER2 and for whatever you want to do, going on to even using other systems in the future. As I said, we've got a little bit of time left before 4 o'clock, and I can stay a little while afterwards as well. If you have any questions or particular topics you want to talk about, then please let me know, and I'm happy to try and help and talk around those a bit with you. But otherwise, if you need to escape, I won't feel offended at all. And if you need to go and do other things, I'm aware that being online all day is quite full on and quite tiring. So please feel free to go and do that. One reminder: the request for feedback form will be sent. Please do leave your feedback, good or bad. We want it all to improve the courses and make them better and make them as good as possible for people. So Andrew asks, when does our access to ARCHER2 expire from this project? As I say, it's 3 to 4 weeks after the course finishes usually. So where are we now? 2nd of December. So I'd probably think end of December is the most likely time. I can double check actually. Give a second. I can look at my account, the project, and I'll see where it's set to expire. Or there we go. So 10th of January. There you go. So the access finishes 10th of January at the moment. So thank you all for your attention and your questions. Like I say, go and enjoy the rest of your day, or stick around and ask questions. I'm happy for you to do either. I hope you found it useful.